Order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, August 5th. If everybody please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza,
Present.
Member Peters,
Here.
Member Benedict,
Here.
Member Estrada,
Here.
Member Dugan,
Here.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. Thank you. And Director, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I do want to note that we did advertise for a public hearing for a rezoning on 3 properties on Peters Road adjacent to the Lucid site, but those did not make the final agenda due to need to re-advertise with some corrected addressing. So if there's anyone in the audience that's here for the rezoning on Peters Road from Urban Ranch to I-1 for those 3 those residential properties, we're not going to be hearing that this evening. So that's all, the only change, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you. Did the commission get a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Yes.
Move to accept, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So we're going to start off with some old business. The agenda item come forward last month, and we tabled it to this month. DSA 20-00203 for a zone change.
Good evening, Commission. You probably remember this from last month. Joe Alza is requesting a zone change from Garden and Light Industrial, I-1, and Urban Ranch to Planned Area Development, PAD, for approximately 55.69 acres of land generally located southeast corner of Thornton and Peters. You can see it highlighted down below. The existing zoning is shown here. It's I-1 and Urban Ranch currently. So the Casa Grande Technology Hub planned area development is near 3 major industrial projects, which is Lucid, Walmart, and LKQ. And the zone change request is to position the property to provide ancillary and supportive uses within the existing industrial corridor. City of Casa Grande's PAD designation provides property owners the flexibility to develop land utilizing site-specific development standards, creating a natural harmony between land uses that would otherwise not be possible through the traditional zoning districts. Utilizing the basic parameters of the B4 and the I2 zones, this PAD will provide development regulations and design guidelines that create an effective mix of heavy commercial, manufacturing, and industrial uses, while also ensuring a cohesive and quality design. You can see here an overview of the land use map. It's been altered a little bit since the last time we saw it. We've added some community service area, the kind of the B4 zoning, and we also amended the location of some of the collector roads that you see there, and I'll get into that a little more later. So when looking at the PAD review criteria, we cover the following criteria. All of it's been covered in your staff report. Tonight we'll just concentrate on a couple of items. The first one is the conformance to the general plan. So the 2030 general plan has this site located in a manufacturing and industry category. The manufacturing and industry category's appropriate land uses do include B4, I1, and I2 zone districts, as well as the uses proposed in this PAD request. Among others, this request supports the following general plan goals. MI2, which is mitigate adverse impacts from industrial users. The action step of MI 2.2 is to encourage compatibility by utilizing architectural details and aesthetics This PAD will blanket the entire area with the similar aesthetic design. And then MI5 is to encourage appropriate and responsible industrial development in appropriate locations. So staff finds that the proposed PAD is in compliance with the 2030 general plan. Next is conformance to the city zoning ordinance. As a guide to reviewing the PAD zoning within a manufacturing and industrial category, staff will look to ensure it's compatible with appropriate industrial zoning categories and the PAD standards. So this PAD generally complies with the standards adopted for the B4 and the I2 zone districts. It is anticipated that the B4 compatible uses will be placed along Thornton Road and Peters frontage, with the I2 compatible uses allocated in the rear or the back portion of the property. You can see the B4 type uses are in the red, and the I2, the heavier manufacturing's in the purple. There was a setback deviation, so 1740-020N, building heights and setbacks, states, in general, a building setback from property adjacent to the PAD site shall approximate its height. We don't know the height of the buildings at this current time, but setbacks for the project have been modified per staff request to provide 30-foot setbacks from all public and private streets, which will create that good buffer on the streets, and then a 15-foot setback from all other property boundaries. Staff believes that 15-foot setback is sufficient, as the surrounding sites are also within the manufacturing and industrial categories and will develop as industrial sites. And it's not likely to cause any adverse impact on the surrounding properties. It also matches the setbacks of the existing I2 zone district. So staff will ensure setbacks are met at the time of any major site plan submittal and evaluate if any proposed use requires additional buffer area to be compatible with the other surrounding uses. So the next one is kind of what we've changed since the last time you saw it. So pedestrian, vehicular ingress and egress. So staff further reviewed after our last hearing the access locations and requested the applicant modify the layout slightly. The applicant agreed to the modifications, and the conceptual exhibit is updated to show that. Here's the previous exhibit that we had, and you can see like the roundabout in the middle and a couple of collectors going through the middle of the site. After staff evaluated a little further, we came to the conclusion that it might make more sense to lay it out in this manner shown here, where the collector street is shifted to the east of the property, so it'll create better access for all the sites internal to this particular PAD, while also creating some access availability for sites further to the east from them. So at time of any future development, each proposed project will be required to provide additional traffic and pedestrian access evaluations in conjunction with any site plan submittal or plating submittal. Regarding notification, staff met or exceeded all requirements. We did not receive any comments on this. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA 2000203, a zone change from urban ranch and garden and light industrial to planned area development with the following condition. That's our standard right-of-way condition, as we do with all zone changes. Do we have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for the staff? No?
Yep, I have a question. Across the street, Lucid, do they have a 30-foot setback for for Thornton Road, a 30-foot setback?
They actually are not, they have a 35-foot setback from the perimeter of the property for their front setback, but however, they also have a 45-foot wide easement for landscaping and the skip canal that most likely might not be utilized now for the skip skid canal, but will be utilized for landscaping. And they did also locate all their parking area in that area, so their setbacks to their buildings was well over the 35 feet, or 30 feet.
My question is, you want to take it from 30 feet to 15 feet, and I wouldn't see a problem with it, but with all the stuff that's going in there, eventually, at some point, you might make Thornton Road a 6-lane road instead of a 4-lane road, and you would want enough property because of all the stuff that's going in the area, eventually Thornton Road could become a 6-lane road because of all the heavy traffic.
Yeah,
And so we have enough area to add another lane in there eventually, because you cannot foresee that, but it just be potential to add a third lane at a later date. That's all I'm asking. Is
So,
that possible?
Commissioner Dugan, couple things. One, it's actually a 30-foot setback adjacent to all the public streets. So there's a 30-foot setback off from Peters, Thornton, and both the collector on the east and the collector that goes through the middle of the site. So there's a 30-foot setback. The 15-foot setback was for the rear and side.
Okay.
Still 30 adjacent to streets.
Okay.
So, a good point that you make, and I even think that we might have adequate right-of-way in Thornton Road to make it 6 lanes in the future if we needed to. No? It's gonna be 4?
Yeah, let me.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
Talk about that a little.
Okay, go ahead.
Have those really high-powered electrical lines going down there. The cost to move those is an enormous cost. So we have no future plans to widen Thornton to 6 lanes. What we do plan on doing is having Burris be 6 lanes. That'll be the major north-south truck route and arterial. And we'll have connections so that the Lucid traffic and everybody can get over to Burris and use that for their.
And Burris Road will go to Interstate 8 also?
Yeah, it'll go to.
It'll go to Interstate 8.
So down at Interstate 8, we're gonna have what's called a split diamond. So there'll be half a diamond at Burris and half a diamond at Thornton with frontage roads connecting the two. So both roads will have access to I-8. It's just, sometimes you have to go down the frontage road to get on the other interchange.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? No? All right. Then at this time, I'd invite the applicant and or their representative come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, thank you, Chairman. My name is Jessica Sarkisian of Upfront Planning, 3514 North Power Road, 115 in Mesa. Thank you guys for allowing us to come back to you after last time being tabled. I think Joe did a great job explaining it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. As you can see, the one thing you had a question on, Commissioner Dugan, was on along Thornton, you can see it labeled the high-powered lines. And so we worked with the Public Works and Dwayne to make sure the spacing of access points was not interfering with those as well. So we've counted in that. And then also, if there ever was an additional need for any changes of right-of-way, obviously the setback would be from edge of right-of-way. So, are there any questions?
Great. Any questions for the applicant? No? All right. Well, thank you for
Thank you.
taking your time to come down here this evening. And at this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody? We have nobody online? Just make sure. Is there nobody online? No. No, okay. I just want to make sure. All right, I just want to make sure. So you're not having to man that. Perfect. So I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
Oh, let me turn myself up here.
I just want to record it.
Yeah. Get it right. I'd like to make a motion to forward to the city council the approval of DSA 20-00203, zone change from urban ranch Garden Light Industrial I-1.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to forward a recommendation of approval.
Real quick, I think his motion was to zone change it from urban ranch to garden and light industrial. It's actually
And
from urban
yeah.
ranch and garden and light
And-
industrial to PAD.
Oh, I got it backwards. Change from urban ranch and garden light industrial to planned area development.
Motion and second,
After
I
we
agree
did
that's
all.
what they were, that was the intention?
Yes.
All right, so, thank you for your catch. All right,
Didn't want it to be zoned I-1.
Come back next month.
right? We're gonna do this again. All right, with that, any, motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza. Aye. Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the new business portion. All right. First up, public hearing and consideration request by the city of Casa Grande for a zoning code text amendment for the residential design standards for planned area developments.
All right. So, the city of Casa Grande is requesting a zone code text amendment for section 17.40.015, the residential design standards for planned area developments to be proposed as follow. That certain document known as Residential Design Standards for Planned Area Developments 2021 edition, essentially the changes from the 2003 edition to this current edition of 2021. The residential design standards for planned area development are being revised to create specific development standards for various types of multifamily residential developments, including the build-to-rent product. So initially, planning staff was directed to provide guidance and standards regarding requests for the build-to-rent residential projects that we've been seeing lately. So this type has become increasingly popular in recent years, and the city faces challenges in selecting a proper zone district and/or design criteria to apply to it. Below are some images that you guys have seen before in a previous presentation that kind of revisits what the actual build-to-rent product looks like, and so that's what we're creating tonight. So although PADs can be applied to residential, commercial, and like the previous presentation, industrial projects, the focus of the residential design standards has primarily centered on single-family residential development. When beginning this revision, it was clear that staff needed to address design standards not just for the build-to-rent product, but for the all multifamily developments. So this request primarily amends the residential design standards by adding a section for multifamily residential request. However, the design standards have been reorganized to ensure easy implementation by applicants and clear and concise review of proposals by Planning Commission and City Council. So these amendments include cleanup, formatting, clarifications of previous standards, and other items like that. But it is important to note that no new standards were applied to the single-family residential requirements, and no existing significant requirements were removed, i.e. like the lot size or any other of the standards that were in place for the single-family residential. So we'll just go and do a quick overview of the new guidelines. I'm not going to get into the specific details unless you have specific questions. You guys are all provided a copy of the design standards with your packet. So we'll start by just kind of overviewing the table of contents. Section 1 is going to be for single-family and multifamily PAD layout and design standards. These are going to be standards that can encompass all residential design. so multifamily or single-family. Section 2 is going to be for our single-family and manufactured homes on individual lots. That's kind of the section that already exists today. Section 3 is going to be the new multifamily development section, and Section 4 is going to include the exceptions. So Section 1, single-family and multifamily PAD layout and design standards, as I said, it encompasses all these projects. So it includes things that transverses all the residential design, like open space, streetscapes, entrances, and perimeter walls, as well as school sites. We'll skip Section 2 because you're pretty familiar with that already with all the single-family PADs that you've seen. So Section 3 is our new multifamily development category. Section A of that includes densities and types of development, including the build-to-rent, duplexes, triplexes, and we move all the way up to apartments and condominiums. They also come with a certain dwelling unit per acre that fits with that type of product. We do have to match those densities with our general plan. For instance, the urban density 25 plus can only be utilized in certain categories within our general plan, like the downtown, the large mixed use and commercial, the commerce and business section, where like the medium density stuff can fit into the neighborhoods category as well as some other categories like community center. So we will look at that when we evaluate the PADs. So the second part of that section is the multifamily site development standards. It also takes some from Section 1, like the open space, adds some additional criteria and more details to it specific to multifamily, but we'll go through them a little bit. So we have building separation and setbacks. We have wall, fence, and screening requirements. We added some open space requirements. We have some landscape standards for multifamily projects. We address driveways and access, parking, and signage for these type of products. So Section 3 is actually going to be in regards to architectural design approval. So we are setting the approval of the architecture of these buildings in conjunction with the major site plan submittal. So you won't see a separate submittal for housing product, you'll see it with the major site plan. The three criteria that you'll use will be no adverse effect on surrounding properties, is it aesthetically pleasing and interesting, and then is it in conformance with the architectural design characteristic listed. And that leads us to Section D, which is the architectural design characteristics. So we have some general standards. We address height, we address roof lines, stairways, garages, and accessory structures within this, within these design standards. And then the last section is just exceptions. It's actually taken from the existing PAD design guidelines, a couple of clarifications and modifications to it, and then moved to the back of the document. In regards to notification efforts, we met or exceeded all requirements. We did also reach out to any active multifamily developer that we're aware of or building these build-to-rent projects and sent them out to them to review. We did get comments back from them looking for clarification on certain items. It did make us tweak a few items here and there to ensure that we were creating a clear and implementable design standard packet. So in conclusion, staff recommends the Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the Mayor and City Council for adoption of DSA 21-00105 for a zoning code text amendment for Section 17.40.015 residential design standards for planned area developments to be proposed as follows. that certain document known as Residential Design Standards for Plan Area Developments 2021 edition is hereby referred to, adopted, and made a part hereof as if fully set out in this ordinance.
Great,
Any questions?
thank you.
Nope.
Any questions for staff? Member Benedict?
Okay, I've got a couple of, maybe they're a little bit specific, Joe.
Sure.
The copy that you got to us, page 8H2, I think that's in section, or what section? Big book. Section 1, section 2, manufactured home on individual lots is the name of it.
So that's going to be part of our section 2.
Yep.
So section 2 was not amended. We did clarify a few items, and we did take a few items from the all of section 2 exists today in our PAD residential design guidelines,
As it is.
as it is. We did tweak certain things that weren't clear, spelling errors, grammar, things like that. And we also took some of those standards and we placed them in section 1 if they could be applied to both single-family residential projects and multifamily projects. Like I mentioned, the open space, streetscapes, entrances, and walls. So, but none of that was really altered in any significant way as far as design characteristics. Does that make sense? So those were all existing.
Okay, can you quickly talk to me about this particular line, all manufacturers' homes shall be no more than 1 year older than the date of installation. Having done a little bit of those and working on some of those, it can be fun to try to get things done in anything of a timely manner. And I'm a little bit concerned that might
Yeah,
restrict you.
absolutely.
So help me understand that.
So Commissioner Benedict, that actual regulation and language is in our existing PAD design standards. You're right, as we read that and reread it and said, oh, that's interesting. What's the objective here? What are we trying to achieve? And we're trying to achieve, I think, not moving in really old units into manufactured home developments, right? So whether or not that's 1 year, 2 year, or 5 year, I think it's pretty subjective. But that's the language today. If the commission thinks 1 year is not enough time, you certainly can ask for that to be amended or recommend to council that be amended, but that's kind of the basis for it. It is in the code today, and it's really intended to try to keep the units fairly new as they get placed in manufactured home parks, or manufactured home subdivisions, actually.
Yep, and I got that and certainly support the concept. You know, that's kind of obvious to me, you know, that we want to move in that direction for sure. What would be the process for getting relief from that?
Well, I think if we went to the exceptions section, it might give us some direction on whether or not we could ask for relief on that. Let me just take a quick look at that. Yeah, well, under the exceptions, it's pretty broad. It says planning commission and council may find that departure from some of the standards is warranted. So you could ask for exception from any standard, it looks like. You have those criteria, A, B, C, and D, that you would have to argue. You know,
Okay.
you might try to argue it's an affordable housing project and, as a developer, I got a great deal on buying these units that were like left over from 2 years and I'm putting them on these new lots, right?
Okay, thank you. So maybe you can educate me then on, so section 3C, the roofs. 3, the roofs. No roof-mounted or wall-mounted mechanical equipment is permitted. So would this cut out air conditioning units that are roof mounted?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think if we added to properly screening those units, that might alleviate some of that concern.
Well, I don't like them, but it's something that has been done quite a bit, and something that's pretty,
So we have to keep in mind two things. One is this regulation exists today. So
Here we are again,
if
okay.
you want to modify it, you can, but it's not new. And the second thing is these are PADs. They're not like infill lots on, in existing neighborhoods. These are new PADs that we're creating here because they're PAD zoned subdivisions, right? So, but it's certainly your prerogative if you think that a roof-mounted equipment is appropriate to recommend that change.
well, I mean, I guess I can see that it would be certainly up to the builders, if that's an issue that they had to deal with. If that's what they were building, then they'd have to address it, and I don't- how would that, do we have the ability to address that if that is something that?
Exemption.
As with the other standard, all standards, you could ask for exception from any standard, right?
Right.
So you'd have to ask for the exception, planning, and make your case before planning commission and council that it was warranted for one of those reasons that are set forth in the exception section, the A, B, C, or D.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Chairman Miller, I have a question.
Yes.
Joe, I have a question whether, I'm looking at section B5, driveways and access, whether the building official or emergency services had any input on the requirements of having 2 access points to these sites, or, I'm just concerned about, you're putting a lot of homes in one location and whether they're required to have 2 different
Can you
access.
repeat the section again for me?
B5. 3B5.
Page 9 on our,
3B5, okay.
page 9 on our staff report.
And you showed a picture previously in your slideshow where there was one point of ingress, egress to, 100 potential multifamily lots, so that's where I worry.
So anytime that we receive this is a zoning document. So as soon as the zoning's approved, then they go into the major site plan submittal. And at that point, we would have fire review, all access standards, all gates, there would be 2 points of access required at that time as well. So these are just standards that create kind of the parameters for their layout, but they would have to get reviewed and approved through the major site plan submittal.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification.
Any other questions?
Is there a typo in C in that section?
Excuse me?
Is there a typo in C at that section? Adequate vehicular.
There's no
queuing
way
Shall
there's
be provided.
No way.
Shall be provided at 4, all gated access?
I don't, no,
Yeah.
adequate vehicular queuing shall be provided.
At and for.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, bring it back next month. Come on.
There might be a typo there.
I'm your pest today,
All
Joe.
right. I appreciate it.
It would have been better if you pointed it out before she sent us to that section, though. I'm teasing. All right. Any other questions for staff?
So what irritates you?
No? Yeah? We're all good?
We're good.
I assume that we can just administratively correct the typo. Doesn't need to be in our amendment. All right, so since you guys are the applicant as well, we've already gone through questioning you. And so at this time, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right. It's good to see that it was thorough enough. There were no questions. So I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to move that the staff or the commission recommends the commission forward a favorable recommendation to the mayor and city council for the adoption of DSA-21-00105 for the zoning code text amendment for section 1740015.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. There it is. I know I did something with my agenda. I got you. All right. Next agenda item, DSA 21-00122, public hearing and consideration request by Upfront Planning and Entitlements LLC for a zone change. Is that correct?
That's what I have.
I think
Okay.
so.
Saw a different one pop up for a second. I was worried.
No, that was me too.
Don't be messing with me, man.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. As you introduced, this is a zone change request from Urban Ranch to I-1, Garden and Light Industrial, known as Hannah 40. The site does involve 40 acres of property that sits on the south side of Hannah Road, west of Sunland Gin, just south of the former Trammell Crow building. The request is being presented by Upfront Planning on behalf of owner Harlan Griffiths, and the request would rezone the property from Urban Ranch to I-1. The applicant and the owner have no specific plans for development here. However, it is within the commerce and business land use where I-1 is a supportable zone district while Urban Ranch is not, and it will allow a much wider variety of uses compared to the Urban Ranch zone. After this part of the process, should both Planning Commission and Council approve the zone change, the next step would be to submit for a major site plan prior to any sort of development proposal. There's a list of I-1 uses that would be potentially developable here. Let me go by each one to let you know what these entail. I'm joking. But as you can tell, there is a wide variety.
Thought we were going to get out early, but
I'm going to read them very slowly.
that's right.
When considering zone changes, there's 3 criteria that must be addressed, and the staff report goes into this in greater detail. And essentially, it complies with, or it pertains to compliance with the city's general plan. The first one is the action should be consistent with the city's general plan. The area, as I mentioned, is within the commerce and business land use designation, which I-1 is a supportable zone district. And it should be within the following, meets the goals and action steps of the general plan. So one of the goals is to develop economically competitive regional centers of commercial activity, and an action step relating to that is to promote a wider range of uses than traditional commercial areas, including industrial sites. So we feel that this is an appropriate request here. Also, one of the applicable elements is that community growth should be driven by industrial, corporate office, professional services, etc., which offer the opportunity for high-paying jobs. The second criteria speaks to rezoning should conform if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities that match that which is promoted within the general plan. So we don't know what type of development we'll see here. That would be at the next step. But should it be of commercial nature or office, there is a requirement to provide at least 10% of open space, so we would evaluate that at the time of the major site plan, and also there's a maximum floor area ratio of 0.35. One thing I do want to mention is that Hannah Road is considered a major collector. Existing is 40 feet of width on the north side of the center line. When this site goes to develop on the south side of Hannah, 40 feet would be needed on the south side of the center line. So one of the conditions of approval this evening is our standard right-of-way dedication language. The third criteria that must be addressed is that the proposed zone change is determined necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the city. I-1 is considered the most appropriate here due to the fact it has nearby railroad and I-10 interchange access. So it's ideal for light industrial type development. Regarding the notification process, it met, if not exceeded, that which is required by the city code. We also sent notification to the town of Eloy and Pinell County because the property is near the border of those two jurisdictions. And we did receive no comments as a result of our notification efforts. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to council a recommendation to approve this zone change, subject to the following three conditions. The first is our standard right-of-way dedication language. The second is that any sort of transformer, backflow preventer, utility box, utility-related equipment are to be painted to complement any buildings proposed, and if ground-mounted, shall be screened with landscaping within view of a public street. And rooftop equipment shall be screened by a parapet. And also, there's another condition recommending a 3-foot tall decorative CMU wall should there be parking within view of a public street. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? No? No. All right. No questions. Makes life easy around here. At this time, with the applicant and or their representative, please come forward.
Thank you. Again, my name is Jessica Sarkissian, Upfront Planning and Entitlements, 3514 North Power Road, Suite 115 in Mesa. Any questions?
We made it way too easy for you as you've come down here this evening, right?
Less is more.
That's it. Questions for the applicant?
Thanks.
No questions, thank you.
Wow.
It's pretty quiet this evening.
Right?
Right. So at this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Nope. All right. Well then, close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
Planning Commission forward to the City Council recommendation to approve the zone change request DSA-21-00122 from UR to I-1 with the following conditions of record.
Second.
Motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. Congratulations. Good luck on the two projects and getting them doing something. All right. Here we go. 3 and 1. Yeah?
That's right.
All right. Public hearing and consideration request by Jason Dottie of Colley Architects, DSA 21-00075 conditional use permit, DSA 21-00076 major site plan, and DSA 21-00086 preliminary replat.
All right, so this is a request to develop a superstar car wash at the northwest corner of Cottonwood and Treckle. It would involve a 1.25 acre site. The proposal is for an automatic car wash just shy of 5,000 square feet in size. I'll pull up a site plan here on an upcoming slide, but you'll see they're providing 3 queuing lanes and 29 vacuum stations. The site is located in a B2 or general business zone where a car wash is permitted, but it requires consideration of a conditional use permit in conjunction with a major site plan. Also, there is the need to replat the property. Currently, there's 2 lots in the associated area of the site, Lot 6 and Lot 2 of the Safeway subdivision. And Lot 6 needs to get a little larger, and Lot 2 needs to get a little smaller to accommodate the site. And with that shifting of the lot sizes, they're proposing a new subdivision known as the Superstar Car Wash Plat, which will be a 2-lot plat. And I'll go through the review criteria associated with that as well. Firstly, though, I'm going to talk about the review criteria associated with a conditional use permit, which is what's required to allow car washing establishments in the B2 zone. The criteria is more thoroughly evaluated in your staff report, but I want to go over these with you here tonight. The first criteria is that the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and topography to accommodate the use, and all yards, spaces, walls, fences, parking, etc. properly relate to the use. So here's an excerpt of the site plan. The bold black line indicates the future property line, and so the replat will be necessary in order to fit this site. And then the blue box is showing the building location with respect to the planned property boundaries. It will be constructed in a way that meets the required setbacks of the B2 zone district. So for example, 80 feet is being provided from the property line parallel to Treckle and the building where 35 feet minimum is required. 25 feet minimum is the required side setback, which would apply to Cottonwood Lane, and they're providing a 25-foot setback, and that's to the post of the canopy for the queuing lanes. And then as you see, there's adequate setbacks from the west boundary and north boundary as well. They are proposing a screen wall, which will match the screen wall that exists elsewhere in the Safeway Shopping Center site, and that will help soften the view of the vehicles, both parking and going through the car wash. Regarding parking, the code requires 1 space for each employee on maximum shift or 3 spaces. They're providing a total of 32 parking spaces, however, 29 of them double as vacuum stalls. Also, one of the requirements is to provide a preliminary landscape plan, which actually this is the excerpt from, and then at the time of site development, they'll provide a final landscape plan, so it'll be reviewed for compliance with the landscape code. However, as you can tell, they are providing a good perimeter of landscaping from Treckle and Cottonwood, as well as a little bit of treatment along the north, and to some extent from the west. The next criteria I want to talk about is that the proposed site for the site for the proposed use relates to streets adequate in width and pavement type to carry the quantity and kind of traffic generated by the car wash use. So there was a traffic impact analysis provided, and it was evaluated by our city traffic engineer, and it was determined that the number of trips that will be generated by this type of use does not prompt any sort of modification to the existing access points. As you see, there's an existing turn lane into the site, a right turn lane going westbound on Cottonwood. There is also the ability to make a left turn into the site from a existing two-way left turn lane if you're traveling eastbound on Cottonwood. And there are 3 queuing lanes provided to help prevent the occurrence of stacking into that north-south drive access that goes into the Safeway shopping center. Both Cottonwood and Treckle half-street right-of-way has already been dedicated. I'm sorry, it's cropping off some of that language, but both roads are considered minor arterials, which in total are 110 feet wide, and the 55-foot half-street dedication has already occurred, as well as the half-street improvements have already been made, including the turn lanes into the site from both Treckle and Cottonwood. The next criteria I want to talk about is that the proposed use will have no adverse effect on the abutting property. So one of the advantages to this area is that it's surrounded by other commercial uses to the north, west, and south. The area where there's the most concern is on the other side of Treckle, involving the recently approved bungalows at Cottonwood and Treckle. It's a single-family for rent product. And one of the things, however, that the bungalows did accommodate for is they sort of protected themselves from the inherent surrounding uses by providing a 6-foot-plus tall screen-themed wall around its site. And between the landscaping provided for the bungalows, as well as the landscaping to be provided for the car wash, there will be over 30 feet of landscape buffering. And then also it's divided by 110 feet of right-of-way. So there is adequate separation between the uses. Additionally, the dryer, which is probably one of the louder aspects of the car wash for the exiting vehicles, is oriented in a way that it's at the furthest point of the building opposite of the planned residences. So that should help mitigate any sort of noise concern. The proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. This area is within the community corridor land use designation of the 2030 Casa Grande general plan. What's a little bit ironic about the community corridor land use is one of the goals is to de-emphasize vehicular activity, and yet we are considering a car wash. But the use itself isn't prohibited by the general plan. It's more about how to accommodate the proposed use with respect to the design criteria that the community corridor promotes. And one of the things that is promoted by the general plan is screening of vehicular activity, de-emphasizing vehicular activity, and promoting pedestrian activity. So one of the ways that this site is achieving that is by placing the building in a way that you don't see any sort of parking activity from view of Cottonwood Lane, which is the more residential street. Even though both Cottonwood and Treckle are minor arterials, Cottonwood Lane has more of a residential type feel. So it's oriented in a way where the building massing is parallel with Cottonwood, and there's no parking activity there. Plus there will be a screen wall along Cottonwood and Treckle to screen the vehicular activity and parking. There's also a proposed sidewalk connecting Treckle to the office portion of the building. And one of the requirements that we're suggesting as a condition of the conditional use permit is that any sort of freestanding signage associated with the site shall be limited to monument style only with a maximum height of 10 feet. A monument style sign is most appropriate in an area where you are trying to de-emphasize vehicular activity because taller signs are more adequate for high vehicle speeds. Also, within the shopping center itself, its signage is around the height of 10 feet. So it'll help be compatible with the existing signage in the area. The last criteria I want to talk about here with the conditional use permit is that the conditions stated in the approval are those that are deemed necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. So there is an associated conditional use permit resolution with this, and it states the specific conditions. One is pertaining to the sign, and then there's two others that are actually part of the city code that just deal with, you have to provide enough queuing for a minimum of 10 cars, which they are accommodating for with their site plan, and that the parking spaces have to be a certain dimension, which they're also accommodating. Now I want to talk about the major site plan portion of the project. And actually, the criteria associated with the major site plan overlap that which we evaluate with the conditional use permit. And so I really want to just talk about the one thing I haven't really delved into, which is the building elevations. They're providing a very modern style architecture. A lot of it is block construction with metal elements. As you see above and below the windows, there's a corrugated metal design. And then they're providing a metal lattice work on portions of the building as well, both vertical and horizontal, to give the building a lot of three-dimensional interest. And staff feels that this is very well done to provide a quality-looking building at that prominent corner. Here's a view that the top left picture is looking at it from the northwest, so as if you were standing on the corner of Cottonwood and Treckle, and then the bottom picture is looking southwest. With regard to the preliminary Re-Plat, we have to review it for adequacy to make certain that the Re-Plat addresses the following criteria. And I want to just talk about the two highlighted real quickly. As, again, just to sort of recap, the Re-Plat will create a new Lot 1, which is larger than the existing Lot 6, and it will reduce the size of Lot 2. So the first criteria is conformance with a zoning. So the property is zoned B2, as I mentioned. And in the B2 zone district, the minimum lot width is 150 feet. For corner lots, however, the minimum lot width is required to be 200 feet. Currently, Lot 6 does not meet the B2 requirement. It's 180 by 160. So actually, the Re-Plat will bring that lot into conformance. It will provide a corner that is 265 feet wide, so it will help meet that criteria. Lot 2 would be considered an interior lot, which requires a minimum lot width of 150 feet. It's actually providing a 253-foot wide lot. If you notice, I'm not counting the flagged stem portion of the property to the south. That's primarily used for parking, and it doesn't get counted because the lot width accounts for where the building line is. So it would be stepped back from Cottonwood, and it would be past that parking area. The other thing that we look at with regard to the zoning is that there's a requirement that parking for a lot has to be provided on the same lot as that use. So the fact that Lot 2 is getting smaller, we had to evaluate if the residual parking on that lot is adequate for the uses on Lot 2, which is primarily retail uses. There's a barber shop. I can't quite remember all the different retail spots there south of Safeway proper. But doing the analysis, they are leaving enough parking to meet that which is required for Lot 2. And on Lot 6, there will be enough, or now the new Lot 1, there will be enough parking to accommodate for Superstar. The next criteria that I want to talk about is utility access and provision and other necessary easements. So the property line that is shared among lots 1 and 2 is right in the middle of the cross-access drive into the complex. And there's already existing access agreements and access easements. When we receive when the final plat goes to City Council, those existing easements will have to be noted just to ensure that they are preserved, or we have a reference to ensure that there is the adequate easements in place, not only for access, but for utilities. There's a number of utility lines that run underneath the property that serve other lots to the north. So that will have to be properly reflected. And also, there's drainage basins to the south that capture half-street flows from Cottonwood, and there's an equalizer pipe underneath that access drive. So flows may be collected on one lot, flows into the basin that will be, say, for example, on the Superstar lot. So we just have to ensure that there's a proper drainage easement that's reflected on the final plat. Those aren't really necessarily conditions of approval or even technical modifications. I'm just bringing that up because at the preliminary plat level, it's not necessary to reflect all of that information, but it's just items that we need to make sure are accounted for on the final plat. There is a recommended technical correction, however, which is to remove reference to an access tract on the pre-plat. So upon approval of this preliminary replat, the next step would be that City Council would consider the final replat. And then assuming that the replat and conditional use permit and major site plan get approved, the next step for the applicant would be to submit for the site development permit and building permit for review. Regarding the public notification process, it met, if not exceeded, that which is required by city code. After the staff report was published, we did receive one comment, and that's been distributed for Planning Commission. It was from the property owner of the shopping center on the south side of Cottonwood. He was in support of this proposal. However, his big concern was he called attention to the fact that he has a left turn lane that accesses his site as shown on the screen. And he just wanted just to go on the record that he was in support of the project as long as his left turn lane wasn't impeded by approving this car wash, and it wouldn't be. His left turn lane remains, and there's an existing way to access the Safeway shopping center. That's not proposed to be modified with this request. So I did indicate to him that I would share his comments with Planning Commission. So in summary, staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and its associated resolution, subject to the following specific conditions, which I have already gone over. And then we recommend that Planning Commission approve the major site plan, and recommend that Planning Commission approve the preliminary replat, subject to meeting a technical modification. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Member McBride.
Yes, if you could go back to, way back to the setbacks. Towards the beginning of it.
Did you pick the second slide in the show?
So,
What are you doing?
But it confused me, and I wanted to get it kind of clarified.
Sure.
The south side is 25 feet to the canopy.
Correct.
The north side doesn't go from the canopy, it goes from the building. Because there is a canopy right at the edge of that or the drying area. And I was just confused why we didn't use that canopy as the setback
From the north side,
from the north side.
Versus 84?
I probably just didn't shade it properly. They can actually, so the required setback from the north property line is actually 0 feet, because it would be considered for the B2 zone district, their side setbacks is one side has to be 15, the other has to be 0, but this is on a corner, which has a corner side setback of 25, so they get to actually be as close as 0. So for certain it meets that. I just made an error with how I measured it.
So the 84 goes away and it goes to 0 then.
They're allowed to be as close as 0. What really technically goes away is they're not as far away as 84 feet from the north property line. They're closer than 84, but they can be as close as 0.
Okay.
But
But in actuality, they are about.
James, are they almost 0? Are those
This-
parking stalls or those vacuum stalls, do they have a canopy over them? That's really the question.
Right, well, there is a canopy over them, but as you can see, there's landscaping between the canopy and I'll get it colored in, between the canopy and the property line.
Okay,
So it's probably a few feet, but they can be as close as 0, and it's measured from the pole of the canopy, so.
So I was just saying the 84 feet is not a correct number.
You're correct.
The correct number would be 3 feet or
Correct,
whatever.
yes.
Was in there. Okay. As long as it doesn't have to be that far away.
Right, that's a good catch, but yeah, they're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Member Dugan.
Maybe it's just in your drawing, but when you come off of Cottonwood Lane, you go right, you're showing that half of the driveway going back to Safeway is gone, and your drawings go out into the driveway. Is the driveway, are you got the whole 2 lanes in there? It looks like you're gonna have 1 lane left.
It's just,
Is that just a
it's an
drawing?
optical illusion. Yeah, I know
No,
that it's still
because-
there.
Because right now, you're showing that driveway is gonna go, that's going back to Safeway is you've taken it away and that's part of the building.
There's an island there.
No, there's
There's an island there, but that's in the driveway,
no.
according to drawing right here. I'm looking at it.
Let me find maybe a better drawing.
There we go, see
Yeah.
now, okay, so.
So
there you go.
there's
You
still,
got. you
there's still two-way traffic.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure of that, okay?
Yeah, I think what you were seeing is I made that property line so bold to define where it was that it looked like it was encroaching into where, it was creating this mass where there's currently through traffic.
Yeah.
But the property line goes right in the middle of that
center of
two-way
it,
drive.
Got it.
Goes to the center.
Okay, and the second thing is, a couple things. What are they projecting the amount of traffic in and out of there? How many cars a day?
So the traffic report provides specifics on that, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have the applicant here who can speak to that.
Get that. And this is my pet peeve, because of all the traffic, even from when the apartments go in. Treckle Road, because the additional traffic should have a right turn lane, and right now it does not. And with all the traffic coming out of there and eventually coming out of the apartments, turning left onto the deal, you don't have a right turn lane. And I believe there should be a right turn lane there, because it's gonna ease the traffic up, because when you got 200 apartment complexes across the street making left-hand turns, plus the traffic going out of there, there should be a right-hand turn lane. And I hope you got enough property for a right-hand turn lane at least at a future point. But the longer you wait on right turn lanes, from that one in the apartments, It's gonna cost $1 million more to get it, so why not do it now? The city's got $100 million standing, so why don't we spend some of them now and put some right turn lanes in?
Chairman Miller, that was going to be one of my suggestions, is at least set back for the future of the right-of-way that you need to put in the right turn lane. Just because, Dwayne, in the past you have said that this intersection is the busiest intersection in the city. So that's where.
Is there a,
Yep.
out of a clarification, is there a dedicated, easement for future
Are you
right turn
talking
lane?
about to the east of
Wait,
Treckle?
Yeah.
So
Go-
it would be
Southbound.
southbound
It'll be southbound
As you
on
hit that
Treckle
corner.
going on to Cottonwood.
Southbound traffic.
There should be a right turn lane.
Got it.
There is not.
Hang on,
To,
hang
to
on.
go on westbound Cottonwood?
What's that? When
To
you go
turn
south on
yes.
Cottonwood.
Okay.
Yes.
You should make a right-hand turn lane there.
Point
Right.
west.
So, Chairman Miller, one of the requests that I asked of Natalie was to see the traffic impact statement. And unfortunately, it didn't address the level of service at the intersection, nor did it really talk about the level of service of the intersection that the resident was concerned with. So that was going to be my suggestion, is if we could get the report revised to tell us what those two intersections really look like today.
If I could address that a little bit, a car wash like this generates about 39 trips in the peak hour. So that's not enough to even require a traffic impact analysis. So everything you're talking about, right turn lanes and everything, is true. It'd be nice to have one there. We can't, I think with 39 vehicles in the peak hour, we can't really require them to build a right turn lane.
No,
I
I think,
understand
I
that.
think Dugan's
No,
request
but-
was just that the right of way was.
Yeah, so.
The deal is,
I'm
it's
heading
not,
that way.
it's not the 39
Yeah,
vehicles from
yeah.
the car wash.
He
It's
knows.
from all the additional traffic that's coming out of Safeway and all the other shops that are in there. So it's a lot more than 39.
But that's not the applicant's fault. The applicant's
No.
not responsible for other traffic
I'm
right now.
thinking that you should have a right turn lane in there.
So 110 foot of right-of-way should give us enough room to put a right turn lane in there. We have
I
110
agree
there
with you.
now. As far as when we would build a right turn lane, we're currently in the process of looking all over the city on all the right turn lanes we need and trying to prioritize. We can't do them all at once, but we do have a plan to pick away every year and add right turn lanes at different locations. So this is one of our busiest intersections in the city, so it's a high priority to do something.
Thank you.
You bet.
Member Benedict, did you have any questions? Yes, I do. All right, it's your turn.
Just to key right off of that, and just to tell you, probably, the last point, what I'm reading of the traffic impact that was provided to us, their last point about the throat length for driveway A, and they had some concern, and I just wondered if you could comment on.
I don't remember which driveway is driveway.
Driveway A is.
Commissioner Benedict?
I got you.
They were having
We're-
an issue picking you up on
good.
microphone.
Yeah, sorry about that.
He forgets to turn it on sometimes.
I figure I'm loud enough, but apparently not. So it's the north-south that's on the east of this, goes along the east of that
So
property.
that driveway into,
Right,
current
and
driveway
I-
into Safeway.
Yeah, I suspect it's, the little island that's for the
So
little
yes,
parking.
we discussed that because it is sort of short there to make that turn and then right away turn into the queue lanes of the car wash, those queuing lanes. And we talked about it a lot, how many cars really queue up there. They go through those lanes pretty quickly. And we talked about moving the building and all kinds of stuff. And this is kind of the best situation we came up with. Mostly the applicant came up with. Maybe the applicant would want
Yeah, I would
to
say
address
that
that a little more.
one of the previous projects that was a car wash that had come through with some concerns has proven to not be, because they get through it so fast, which was right on Pinal. If we remember, that one has not generated, other than grand opening, it was chaos around there. But after that, after it settled,
There are a number of other new ones that are looking at coming to town, so
Yeah.
they all could be empty most of the time, and there'd be so many of them.
Don't say that. We got an applicant here trying to build one. Wait a minute.
Well, I'm exaggerating.
No, I know. I'm teasing.
For them around town.
So I think that looking at it, there's no. Is it just lines? There's no median in between on the site that's separating those queuing lanes. So making that turn, you might not quite get the first lane, but you can kind of work your way over there after you get in.
Coming from the north.
Coming from the north. That's it. Any other questions for staff?
You're showing the curb going left into the complex across the street. That's not there now. You're going to add that, unless you just
So there
added it.
is,
It's been there.
there is a
already
left
there.
turn lane there.
They extended it down.
The owner of the development on the south there actually built that with his own money a few years ago.
All the movements at that intersection bother me. I mean, I've made that left-hand turn at a Safeway, and it's a little scary.
Well, just don't go left in the safe lane.
Yeah, I go right
You could
now.
go
I
up and
just make a
over to the
forward.
light. There's so many ways out of that complex.
Right?
All right.
Come in the backside.
Any other questions based on the applicant's request, not the intersection?
It's always about traffic.
It is about traffic.
Should I bring up the,
No.
Mr. Dugan was just talking about? You can't turn left out of that. That's always been my pet peeve.
Well, that traffic that this picture's showing, you can.
Yeah, well, no, you can't, but it's a one busy road.
All right.
I've always had that issue.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Just don't go that way.
I don't.
Okay, good. All right. With that, if there's no other questions for staff, I would happily bring the applicant and/or their representative to come forward. Please speak to this agenda item. Appreciate your patience this evening and getting to you.
Yeah, good evening, commissioners, planners, and staff. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys might have, but Jim gave a pretty good explanation of things. One thing I was going to add to the comments about the turning into there and the people waiting at the stacking lanes is that we we are able to process up through those POS stations, process one person every 10 seconds per car. And that number is high because about 60% of our customers so far are on like a monthly plan, so they can just whiz right through there and get their license plate read and go straight through. So that has speeded things up, and that number is increasing. So we don't really have a lot of stacking there. So we are able to process the number of vehicles at this location. So with that, any questions?
I got one for you, and it's just on a technicality. Could you state your name and address for the record?
I apologize.
That's all right.
My name is Jason Doty. I am with Colley Architects at 730 North 52nd Street.
Thank you.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Questions for the applicant? You guys drilled staff and you got nothing for the guy? I mean, come on.
It all goes back to the roads.
I'll go back to roads, which isn't your problem, though. All right. Well,
It looks like a nice car wash in the middle of a nice lot.
yeah, it looks like a
Beautiful.
good addition to a piece of dirt right now. So excited about that.
Hope so.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry we don't have any exciting questions to drill you about, but thank you for being here this evening. And
Okay. Thank you.
then we can say, well, we don't know.
Are there any other questions?
No, he's being mean to me right now. All right. With that, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Not the intersection, just the agenda item.
Frank Sheppel, 2635 East Golden Trail. I just had a question, Jim. On the very last slide, you showed the monument is 15 feet, and earlier you were talking about the monument sign is 10 feet.
Good catch. It is supposed to be 10 feet. So that's a typo.
Okay.
What's written in the resolution, should Planning Commission approve it, is it would state the maximum height of 10 feet.
Thank you.
An excellent, productive question. And none of you caught.
Nor you.
That's I'm busy running the meeting here. Anybody else from the public? We'll close the public portion.
Do we do these in,
Let's do one at a time.
yeah, but up or down?
Do you care about the
Re-plat?
order as long as,
Re-plat first, site plan, then the,
ultimately?
conditional use permit before the site plan at least,
Okay,
make sure it's.
so just do top down, we'll be
Yeah,
fine.
you can start at
Just
top.
start top down.
Yeah.
That answers your question.
Gotta allow it first.
Then I had another question, then these conditions are different from what's in the report, right? Is that right? Yes.
So, Joe just pointed out to me that the resolution also has the typo. It's indeed intended to be 10 feet, so we'll have to edit the resolution. But the staff report states that
10 feet?
well, there's some conflict because it's kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. In some places it says 10, some places it says 15. But on communication that's been had with the applicant, it referenced 10. It references within the body of the staff report that in addition to the condition regarding the sign, there's two others that are found within the resolution due to code requirements for car washes. And those two are what you see here regarding the assurance that there's 10 spaces for 10 automobiles, and that also with regard to wash water having proper disposal facilities, which they're naturally accommodating for with the development. So apologize for that confusion in the staff report.
So maybe
we could do
clarify it on the motion, the motion could just
Yeah.
reference the sign is 10 feet. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, or I was gonna say, or just conditions addressed in the staff report, adding 2 and 3 that as presented in the hearing. Either way. Yeah, we can fix that.
And the resolution already has those two conditions in it, so.
It just
When
has
you're
15
approving,
feet.
when you're approving the resolution, I would just change 15 to 10.
Yeah,
And then the other two are already in
that'll
there.
be staff's job.
Alright.
I'll just make sure I don't sign it if it doesn't say 10, right?
So pay attention when you're
I
saying this.
read every document you sign.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Fantastic.
I move to approve conditional use permit and its associated resolution for DSA 21-00075 for an automobile wash establishment with B2 zone with the following conditions as presented, with the change of number 1, which will be the maximum height of 10 feet.
Second.
Well done.
Thank you.
I like it.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Aye.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes,
Chairman Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve DSA -21-00076, the major site plan.
second.
Nice. Motion and second. Any discussion? Oh, yeah, no? Oh. Hearing none. Natalie?
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Estrada.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes,
Chairman Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA -21-00086, preliminary replat, subject to a technical modification requiring removing reference to parking access track.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Garza.
Aye.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys for coming down. Thank you for sitting through this excellent riveting meeting. And exciting to see some development on that corner. So, yeah, good luck to you guys in your business endeavors. All right. Reports by the planning director.
So we had 3 administrative approvals, as noted in your agenda. Minor amendment to the major site plan for Lynn's Chinese Buffet, minor amendment to the major site plan for WZ Asian Bistro and Sushi Bar, and a minor amendment to the Lucid Hannah Road facility. So those were approved. The Board of Adjustment did meet recently and took some action on some cases. They actually heard an appeal from a decision that they attempted to appeal your decision of denying their conditional use permit for their front yard wall. And I declined their forwarding their appeal to city council because their appeal was not timely filed. They missed their deadlines. And they appealed my decision. The board upheld my decision and denied their appeals. The board also heard a variance for perimeter setback, or decreasing the front yard setback on a house in the Greens development. It was a very unusually shaped lot, and they couldn't even fit the smallest house on it, so the board gave them some relief on some setbacks so they could build a house on that last remaining lot in the Greens. Planning Commission, City Council did approve the major amendment to the Los Prados PAD that you recommended as well. So that was, I believe, James, for the Whataburger, Aldi's, and Bungalows, is that correct? Is that one? Right? So that's all approved now. And so those are the reports. Oh, also, you do have your building permit report and your planning application reports for the month and the year.
Thank you.
We're good?
Move the adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.